Hello, I'm Lynne Franks, your host, and I'd like to welcome you to my latest podcast episode of Frankly Speaking with Lynne Franks and Friends. My guest in this new episode is my long-term friend, Clare Beloved, Liverpool-based, an artist, a poet, a teacher, a designer, a community leader, and a lover. Her beautiful new book, called Somewhere Between Derelict and Divine, is a love story. It's a story of a love story between her and her extraordinary wife, Sandra Richardson, who sadly died from breast cancer nearly 4 years ago. Sandra was a change maker. She was a leader in Liverpool in the community of social care for young people particularly, and did extraordinary, wonderful projects in the time that I knew her. She also was a poet, brought out her own books, and an artist, and she was an inspiration to all who had the pleasure of knowing her, me included. Clare and Sandra together, when they finally met, created miracles amongst young people in Liverpool, and some of them I was even involved with, and we're going to be talking about all that in the podcast. And in this book, it brings together fragments of their powerful story, their all too brief life together, with poems, memories, and photographs. Like everything Clare does, her book is a work of art which needs a place in everyone's home who believes in love, beauty, and creative inspiration. Hello, welcome to Frankly Speaking with Lynne Franks and Friends. And today I'm with my very lovely friend, Clare Beloved, also Claire Campbell, as she was, I think, when I first met her quite a few years ago. She is absolutely the epitome of Clare Beloved in every way. Clare is an artist, a poet, an activist, a designer. I love wearing her clothes that are all based on her beautiful art, and a community initiator of so many different projects and so much since I've known you, really. I mean, I'm not going to put it into your introduction because you can introduce yourself. But one of the reasons we're here today, and I'm going to hold it up because we will be showing this on video as well on iTunes, on what's it called, YouTube, is the beautiful book. I don't know if it's showing properly. Probably not. That's everything you do so beautiful, Clare. And I mean, you can see again when people watch this visually, your lovely paintings and background to your house there. And the book is called Somewhere Between Derelict and Divine, and it is a love story and a love poem. It's beautiful in every way, not only all the way through with your wonderful illustrations and photographs and memories, but it's a story of you and your wife, partner, soul partner without question, the incredible Sandra Richardson, who passed away tragically. I don't even, what is it, 2 years ago? Was it?
Nearly four years.
Was it really? Because Clare and Sandra used to visit me here and we were very close, and I can't believe it was that long ago. So we're going to talk about grief and losing one's soul partner, and we're talking about Sandra as well because she was such an amazing person. Also working in community and activist, and an incredible poet and a painter in the end, and the whole experience you had. But we're going to start off with you, Clare. So we've known each other, I don't even remember, what, 20 years maybe? Is it as long as that?
I think it might be about 30. I remember being in a little cupboard that was my first office in like a wardrobe thing in Toxteth when I first started up as a social enterprise. And I remember being on a kind of, I can't remember what it was then, like those calls you did years ago on the computer that were like, oh yes, like an MSN chat or something like that.
I think when I was still living in LA, and I'd do these something that we had software to do in those days that we don't have anymore, where we could actually do a group call. I suppose it's all WhatsApp now, isn't it? But we do a group call and women were coming from all over the world. And then I'd do this meditation so that we were all in from all over the world. And then I'd go, let's go into silence now.
Yeah, I think I sent a bundle of things that I made to you, and I think that's how the connection was.
You did. You've always done these amazing paintings and illustrations and turned them into goddess cards and all kinds of inspirational, lovely things. And yeah, you sent them to me, and that's how we met and became friends. And this was before you knew Sandra, in fact. You were still single at that point. A single lesbian out on the town in Liverpool. And the thing I think about you all the time is the colour. Everything for me with you is about colour. And as I'm looking at you now as we're speaking, you're surrounded with colour. And it's obviously very important to you as a painter. So we kept talking, being friends. And then How long ago did you meet Sandra?
Um, I think, well, we were together 10 years
Are you
and it was 4 years ago. So, I
14 years
like to
ago?
think it was 14 years ago, yeah.
That's amazing. Time goes so fast, doesn't it? And or not. And you met Sandra because you worked in the community a lot. She also worked in the community. Tell us a little bit about the work that you've done for so many years. You've done with women, with men, with young people with dementia, children at school. You've brought art and colour into so many people's lives. Tell me a bit about that.
I think that I've always been an artist. I've always painted. I've always written poetry and expressed. For my own healing, really, just wanted to express what was inside. And um, I was very shy when I was younger. I don't know how I started the business. I put a workshop on one day and then loads of women came and then they were like, when's the next one? Will you come into our school and do this? When you come into our prison and do this? And as it is, I think a lot of women entrepreneurs start a business with what they want and what's not there. So I think that's a familiar story. We're searching for something, it's not there, and we create it. So it's been an incredible journey over the last 30 years, taking me to all kinds of amazing people and places, and we've got a lot of great stories.
You have got a lot of great stories, and I've seen you at either my retreats, which you've guested, taught at, or other places where you've just come in with a bundle of stuff. I don't even, colors, paper, just bits of fabric, whatever it may be, and you have turned a room of strangers into a collective of artists. I've never known anybody that can turn people around from thinking, "Oh, I can't do art," to doing beautiful, beautiful things. And I think it's a one of your many talents is that way you can create art with other people who don't think they've got the skills. As I said, you've worked with people with dementia, you've been able to get them painting. It's a wonderful gift that you have, Claire, and it needs to be much even broader than it has been. So Sandra, when you first met, was what was she? She was something in the local council where she was running a
She
lot of
was
social.
she was just on the edge of going from being managing the youth service in Knowsley and Merseyside, which is one of the most deprived boroughs, to turning it into a social enterprise to enable it to survive because youth services were being cut all over the country. And Sandra saw that with her vision and decided to spin it out into being a cooperative youth service run by and owned by the young people and the local people, which was incredible.
I did not know
Um,
that. What a
mm,
visionary. How brilliant.
and before then she'd built the whole building that they were all in. So she'd fundraised and built this huge big centre in Knowsley. She really was a force to be reckoned with. And I don't know how I didn't meet her until when I did, but it must have been divine timing.
Yeah, for sure. For
Mm.
sure. I did not know she did all that. So the first time I met Sandra, and again, I'm so bad on years, was at 1 Billion Rising that I put on when I sort of closed off somehow Marble Arch and got all sorts of speakers and poets and singers and musicians to come along on the 14th of February. In fact, I just don't remember years. It must have been about 12 years ago. And it was an extraordinary group of, I think Yvette Cooper was there long before she was her Home Secretary, all sorts of people, all talking about the fact that that sexual violence to women and girls has to stop and it has to stop now. This was 1 Billion Rising was something that was created by the wonderful events Levy, who's a good friend. So I was sort of creating events at that point within the UK, within London, because all around the world at this time of the year, and it's going on, in fact, right now, groups of women come together using song, using music, using the spoken word to say no more, it has to stop. And I have to say, in all the years it's been going, just 20 years, I think now, I wish it had stopped, but unfortunately it still hasn't. But we need to stand up together. So you said to me in your visionary way, I can bring 50 young girls between the ages of 11 and 14 down from Liverpool to Marble Arch. I'll get some coaches, I'll get it all organised, and they'll come with banners that they've made, and they'll talk. They'll talk about their experiences on the stage. They'll do poetry. They'll do songs, whatever it may be. So I think, as always, on February the 14th, it rains because we did Trafalgar Square the year before and it poured with rain. Then it was pouring with rain and there was no sight of you. And then I got a message saying you're stuck on the M1 and all these coaches with all these great kids. And somehow you made it. And about halfway through the event, I suddenly saw this kind of pouring into the High Park or pouring into Marble Arch, this group, large group of young girls, all wearing purple with glitter all over them, with huge banners, who came and created this huge, it makes me cry even talking about it, this huge circle around us in Marble Arch. 50 young 11 to 14-year-olds there to stand up and say no more violence, no more sexual violence to women and girls. And I was on the stage at the time introducing people and I saw this energy and these young girls around me and the tears just didn't stop coming. I was so moved. And you made that happen. And Sandra also helped. That was the first time as I said, I met her. And so she worked with you on getting the funds together, getting the coaches, getting the girls there. And then several of them then came up on stage and they talked about their own experiences. The confidence that they had was extraordinary, really. Be outside in Marble Arch on a stage surrounded by lots of people telling their experiences. What's your memory of that time? It was so fantastic.
Well, it was a very Scouse thing, wasn't it? Very Liverpoolian thing. So, Sam's like, we'll just get buses, I'll sort it. She's very good at the logistics of making things happen. And we got all the young women who I'm still in touch with today, a lot of them amazing young women out there in the world, and it's a very powerful memory for them still. And the bus was late in typical Liverpool style. We were in a traffic jam to London. All the mums and nans and all our supporters were with us on the bus, and we were like, I think Sam was on one bus and I was on the other, and we're like, we're not going to get there in time. We're not going to get there. In amazing Sandra Richardson style, it was absolute perfect timing because it came at just the right moment and it created that movement. But my memory of the day was also that Sandra said, I've ordered 100 purple umbrellas with Big Love Sister on. And I was like, what do you mean umbrellas? Why do we need umbrellas? What are you thinking? And she was like, just trust me. And then it so rained and poured down, didn't it?
Yeah.
And so every picture just had these great big purple umbrellas with Big Love Sister on, and Sandra was so pleased that she was like, see, you should have trusted me.
Yeah, she was absolutely right. I forgot really about the umbrellas. It was the big purple umbrellas all around in a big circle. Love sister umbrellas.
Amazing, yeah. So she was a genius.
She was a genius in so many ways. As are you. An incredible pairing of two genii, as we say. And that was a wonderful experience. And then you and Sandra at that point already were a couple, I think, and you had started working together, traveling a lot, creating these beautiful clothing, as I said earlier, based on your paintings that I used to love. And we had them at the seed shop, all your things. I've still got something like so many things that you've used your creative ideas to then become objects. So we've got lights and posters and little pictures and the clothing. I mean, every summer I bring out my clothing and it's just wonderful. And Sandra, at that point, had she then already been diagnosed?
No, so we met through work. I think the story's in the book about how we met, where I couldn't find any lesbians to take part in this project in Knowsley. And someone said, no, have you not met Sandra Richardson? And I was like, no, who's Sandra Richardson? And they were like, you must have. And I think that's the thing, like, about timing, isn't it? Like, maybe we wouldn't have been ready to be with each other before then, but it felt like divine timing. So I got Sandra's number and rang her up and said, I need 10 lesbians for this project. Lovely Sandra Richardson. I've never met her before. And she just paused in that amazing way that she did. And she said, I'll get you 20 by Monday. And that was Sandra. She was a shero. She would go above and beyond to help people. And that's how it began, really. So, we had a few years working together. Our energy I think sometimes two people's energy just comes together and makes 20,000. because we both saw each other, knew what each other were about, and together that energy was really explosive and is. And so it was a few years before she was diagnosed, and yeah, she had had a double mastectomy. So she thought, as a lot of women do, that that means that you can't get breast cancer again. But yeah, so then she was diagnosed about 3 years before she died.
And the work in that 3 years that you did together, as you say, was really explosive. I mean, you did manage as two people to do the work of, I don't know, thousands. And every time I looked, there was another poetry book, or there was an exhibition, or it just kept going on and on. This beautiful creativity, taking people away on retreats, going away yourselves to all these amazing countries. I know you have a deep love of India, which is where you did a lot of your clothing, and it just kind of, yeah, it was wonderful and so inspirational. I mean, I know that there's not many people up in Liverpool that haven't seen your work one way or another, yours and Sandra's, but I mean, for me, it's just to get out to the world. I mean, you have done stuff outside Liverpool, but it needs to get more out because it is so unique. Your art, Sandra's poetry, her art, your poetry, it still exists, don't you think? Whatever it was that you two created together, it's
Yeah.
still there. There's
I
no
mean,
question.
Sandra had never painted before, and on the project where we met before we got together, she was like, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm used to doing logical things, but she just like blossomed, and then this incredible art came from her, and she'd had all these poems under the bed, and I think we were both are amazing at leveraging other people. Like I was like, okay, this is poetry books, let's get them out there. This is an art exhibition. And Sandra was able to say, you're a visionary and I can support, I've got your back, I can help you take that out wider and sort funding out and, believe in you. And
Gosh.
I think there's something about the power of other people believing in you and opening doors for you that is really incredible. And we were and are that for each other, I'm sure.
I think the reality is very few people have that. I've never had it really. I mean, I've got lots of wonderful women who I
Mm.
work with and I suppose believe in me. And I was in partnership with my former husband in business, so that was certainly an easy time compared to doing it on my own. But I don't know that he ever really saw me or believed in me. I think maybe there's sometimes, lots of times, where two women together can see each other far more clearly than a man and a woman who, which at the end of the day, don't have a lot of
I think
understanding.
I think I've had some pretty dodgy lesbian relationships, as you know.
I'm
So
sure, of course,
it's
nothing
not
is.
perfect, but I think there was just something very unique about Sandra,
I knew,
and,
yeah,
and it was one of those incredible partnerships that you get once in a lifetime, and I feel very, very lucky for that.
yeah. Well, you are very lucky for that. You are, and we love Sandra, and she's never out of your thoughts. I know on a daily
Mm.
basis, and for so many people that she affected, and in a positive way. So, do you want to talk me through the book and explain what it's all about?
So, as Sandra was dying, I was writing on Facebook, just putting how I was feeling, the reality of things, and people were reading along with that and saying how powerful it was to get the kind of the real and the raw, without glossing over things. And so, yeah, I had all these pieces of writing. And then Sandra was writing, Sandra was scribbling. She couldn't see, near the end in the hospice, but she was writing poems. She was writing titles of poems and saying, finish this for me. Um, and she was very adamant that this story must go out in the world, that it must be written. She was saying, hire a theatre, we need to do a play, and I was holding that energy of witnessing someone you love dying in front of your eyes and someone very powerful kind of disintegrating before your eyes and trying to hold this vision and legacy that Sandra wanted me to hold. So after Sandra died, the one thing that I knew, I didn't know anything else, didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, how to carry on, was I know I've got to write this book. I know Sandra wants this to be a play. I know
Tell us a
that.
little bit about the play, and then we'll come back to the book because you
So
did the play very
the
soon
plan is
after she
like
passed
hire
away.
this. as she's dying, she's like, hire this big theatre and we'll both get on stage. And I'm like, okay, love. But secretly I was like, oh my God, you're here dying, you've got a few days to live. So about 4 months after she died, I thought, right, for her birthday, which is always around Valentine's Day, I'll just hire a theatre and we'll raise loads of money for the hospice and we'll do a play. So I went to the Epstein Theatre in Liverpool and booked the theatre. And they were like, we don't know you. You're an unknown. How are you going to fill a theatre? And I was like, don't worry about that. That's the least of our problems. We'll fill the theatre. And then I just completely was like, I've never written a play before, but I've got all this writing. So I put it together into a play with the help of an old friend, Carmel Morgan, who writes for Coronation Street. She stepped in and helped me put some together. And then I was like, we need actresses to play me and Sandra. And years earlier, the actress Leanne Best had come onto one of my workshops when she was like 16, and heartbroken, her mum had booked her onto one of my workshops. And it was about creativity and living your creative life. And she said to me, I'll come back one day and play you in the story of your life.
Oh my God.
And over the years, we kept in touch and she became famous. She's been in Young Wallander, Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, loads of other amazing things. She's now on Broadway with a play. And she contacted me and she played me in the play. And then Yolanda Cattle, who is a relative of mine but I'd never met, she messaged me and said, can I play Sandra? And she's from Birmingham. She's nothing like Sandra really. She'd never met Sandra, and she got on that stage and everyone was like, that was Sandra there on the stage. It was an incredible night. It was, they spoke our words, they were us. It was just so incredible.
I saw pictures. Did you film it? Because I was so sorry I couldn't get up there. You didn't film it?
I know. And Alexia Chellan, whose music I adore and Sandra adored, she's got a big following, but not, famous in the conventional way. I wrote to her and said on Instagram, will you come, can we use your music? Can you come up and sing? And she came and we used her music as the soundtrack. And the play is, I absolutely know, meant to be a film. And when the time is right, I know that it will be. Maybe we're just waiting for...
You're a great manifester, Claire. If you say it's going to be a film, it's going to be a film.
To get a wider stage before she comes back to play it. And I know that will happen. But the play was an incredible night. And everyone was up dancing, crying, singing. It was a very joyful, magical, incredible.
I'm so sorry I didn't get up to Liverpool. That's the trouble being in Somerset and you're in Liverpool, but I should have come. Oh my God.
So then I was writing the book in the background and naively, because I've never I've written poetry books, but nothing so personal writing. I was just gathering all these pieces of paper. Then I couldn't be in the house because it was too emotional. We had our wedding in the house. We had the funeral in the garden. I couldn't be here. So I went to Greece and found this little island and wrote. And I was thinking, well, the book's nearly finished. Very naively, because, it took another 3 years it took to write and then to put together, because as you were saying, it's woven with so many images and words and paintings. And so, yeah, it just came out just before.
Well, I got mine, so typically you, in a wonderful envelope with hearts all on the outside, and then I opened it up and all these paper hearts fell out, and lovely affirmation cards of yours and goddess cards, and a piece of lovely honeycomb chocolate which I immediately ate, and lollipops. I mean, it was just a sort of real gift. I thought if all books could come like that, but then the book itself, let's not get away from it. I've still got it here with all the different things that were sent. But the book itself is just a joy to look at, a joy to handle, to hold. I've never really been into digital books, and this is a good example why. I mean, this book needs to be seen, held, touched, felt, smelt in every way. I mean, it is an absolute work of art, and I presume people can order it if they want to see it. We'll be putting
So I knew from the beginning that a publisher may not want it because at first, so far, because it's so full of imagery and so woven in with imagery. It's not just got paint. It's not just got a page with an image. It's actually a prayer woven in with, the images. Every word is placed in the right place within it.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
And you can tell.
a publisher said to me, it's our worst nightmare because, it's so beautiful, but we wouldn't have believed that it could have come to be. So I knew I had to create it first. And I had spent, I wasn't working at that time. I was just working on the book. I must have spent thousands and thousands on, getting it to this point. And then, I just asked, somebody said to me, I would have loved to have written a book about my loved one. It's so important to see their stories told and their names, but I could never do that. So I thought, well, how can this book help that? And so how we raise funds to get the book out there is people paid to have their loved one's name in the front.
Oh, did they?
So,
I missed that. I didn't
so
realize
there's a
that.
whole list of 100 names of people who've died. And
Oh, here we are.
the book is like dedicated.
Yeah, I've got it right open now. The acknowledgements page. I didn't.
And I think that it feels then like the book belongs to the community as well.
Yeah.
And it's part of something bigger, which is what I and Sandra was about. And people have said, God, I just cried for days seeing my loved ones, my child's name in there, my partner's name, my dad's name. And that will always be in the book now, and their stories are being shared. So I think that was perfect, really. I've tried to get it on Amazon and other things because they've said this is too outside the lines for us to make.
Why outside the lines? What they mean? Because it's got so many pictures.
Print it up because it's got so many images. So right now it's just to get it from me, and then you'll get a dose of love with it as well.
Yeah, you sure do. It's got to get out there. It's got to be picked up by a publisher. Okay. Meanwhile, we'll talk about that. But meanwhile, I've asked you to look for one or two or whatever you'd like pieces from it, the book, of your poetry, that I'd like you to read out now. Would you like to do at least one piece now? We can chat a bit more and then we'll do another piece.
Okay, so it's hard to choose.
Yeah.
I mean, let me see. We also made these gorgeous bookmarks, so it's
right here. And it starts, I must also say, again, I can't say, perhaps you could hold it up, your copy, because you haven't got your background out. But that first page, the picture of you and Sandra, it's the most, at your wedding, the most beautiful, beautiful picture of you wearing clothes that you designed. Or Sandra always had to have something a little bit more tailored, didn't she? She wasn't quite into the flowing goddess dress.
I have to have the butch version of it all. So
yeah,
so this isn't really a poem, but it's a start of the book, and I think it's what the book is all about. So, becoming the bearer of stories, bones, and stars. We all have a story, and as we share, they transform into invisible threads, weaving this random world together in a spider web of delicious alchemy and juicy connection. Sandra and I were both storytellers. We knew the sacredness of stories, and they made sense of our messy, scattered pasts and our heart-breaking present. And now they carry me forward into the sea of my future unknown. To be in our company for any stretch of time was to witness our voices competing in an increasingly loud Scouse orchestra, each playfully fighting to the crescendo, to be the one to deliver the punchline. In her last days, squeezing my hands tight, she asked me to write this book and carry our love onwards. So I have kept my promise. We who are left behind, devoid of our other roles, become the bearers of these stories and the bones and the stars of those who have gone before us.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. So I guess for those who lose somebody they love very much, be it a child, a partner, a parent, a friend, writing out your stories is part of the healing process, I assume.
Yeah, sharing, telling our stories. It's how I feel closer to Sandra. It brings her alive. I mean, lots of people have said, I never met Sandra, but I know her through the book. Like, I can hear her voice.
Yeah.
I feel like I know Sandra, and she would love that,
Yeah. And we're going to put the links into
Mm.
Sandra reading
Yeah.
her poem. Well, we've got two videos, one that you've got, and I've also got a little video at the Sea Cafe of Sandra reading one of her poems when we had a Sandra Richardson poetry night when her book came out. Do you remember? So
Yeah.
you guys came and stayed. So I think I'm going to put links up to both of those so people can hear for themselves Sandra's voice talking her extraordinary words. I mean, from somebody, as you said, she was very linear, she was very organized, she was somebody that made things happen. And yet the poetry, the inner poet that she was, that came out more and more as more she spent time with you, was just wonderful, magnificent. And you became, I guess, did you become more a bit, I mean, you were always organized, I always thought, but I mean, perhaps you got a bit from each other.
There's a piece in the book about how Sandra used to get this. I had a dream or a vision plan, and Sandra would get a big whiteboard out and start doing these 12. This is how we do this. This is a strategy. And at one point, she looked at me and she's like, "You don't need me to do this, do you? Because you've just got this vision that will take you forward." And I was like, "No, carry on doing it. It makes me feel safe, knowing that there's a plan behind it all."
Uh,
And I remember saying to her, "It's really sexy when you do that whiteboard thing and have a plan. So carry on doing it." But
oh,
we both saw each other's strengths, and it was great to have each other's back. And I think people live on in their stories, don't they? It's lovely that
yes.
Sandra's living on. And I'm just doing a community project at the moment with I mean, it wasn't about grief. It was just come and work with these people creatively. And everyone started sharing stories of how my next book is going to be about clothes and how they carry stories. Because everyone started just saying, I've still got my husband who died. I've got his coat and I wear it and wrap it around myself. So we're making this exhibition of kind of recreated clothes of our loved ones. And it's so, I just see them come alive, these people, as they speak their loved ones' names and tell the stories. So, I mean, often people are frightened about saying, Sandra's name out loud in case I get upset. And I'm like, she's with me all the time. It's not like I've forgotten and then you're reminding me.
Yeah.
So to hear our loved ones in the room, in the conversation, still with us is beautiful.
Lovely. I love the idea of that exhibition. I'd love you to come and do it here as well.
Mm.
When is that going to happen? Is that in Liverpool, I assume?
Well, I've only done a few sections and already we've got this amazing exhibition. So hopefully that will spread. But I said I'm never going to write a book again after this one because it did nearly kill me. And then of course there's about a million ideas of other ones. But I think our clothes carry so many memories and stories. It's beautiful. Yeah.
It is. So I know that, I imagine, as always, you're juggling so many things. So what other sort of, I love the idea of the clothes exhibition,
Mm.
more books. You're working back in the community on other aspects of art and
Yeah, I
painting.
mean, I've been saying to people, I haven't been doing anything since Sandra died. And then people remind me, you've done 2 plays, a one woman monologue, you've written a whole book that's like 400 pages. Um, it just
You
feels,
never stop. You
it
are
feels
always,
like, it feels like life stopped and I haven't been in my full energy, but I know that I've created a lot.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's about finding some joy again for me, finding my place in the world without Sandra. Obviously her energy's with me, but I mean, people say, "Oh, she's still with you. Don't worry," and you think she's not though physically. It's very lonely and stuff. So, yeah, finding some joy and gorgeousness and creating and painting more because I haven't really painted since Sam died. So to continue.
You'll never stop. You will never stop. And we were talking earlier before we came online about the current campaign you've been very involved in Liverpool with the Marie Curie Centre, the hospice
Mm.
where Sandra actually spent her last few months, which you both got very involved with. I mean, right at the end, Sandra was doing fundraising. Right at the end, so typically Sandra. But tell us about that because that's quite a terrible NHS story of the current times.
Well, we're hoping that we can turn it round.
Mm.
So when Sandra never wanted to be in a hospice, she was very independent. and she wanted to die at home. Unfortunately, she was so very ill that it wasn't able to be managed at home. I mean, on the phone in the middle of the night, me begging people to come out and give her painkillers, and her just in total agony. And she agreed to go into the hospice for 1 or 2 days to get the pain under control. And of course, as soon as she got in there, she fell in love with the place and the people, and they fell totally in love with Sandra Richardson. And she just felt safe there and looked after, and I felt safe. I could breathe, I could relax, and just
Be with
focus
her.
on loving Sandra instead of being on the phone screaming for help, and support. And as soon as Sandra got in there, she started writing strategic plans for how the hospice could be run better. She's like, Claire, take this to the manager. She also talked to the staff and said, where do you go in the break? And they said, we haven't got a staff room. And she's like, that's not going to carry on. So she rang me in the middle of the night and said that the cleaner was pushing her down round the hospice while she looked for spaces that could be turned into a staff room. And then she's like, Claire, you've got to start a campaign, which raised 25,000 plus to build a staff room. And so the hospice took us into its heart, and we took the hospice into our heart. And the nurses still ring me on Sam's birthday, on Christmas, and see if I'm okay. They're incredible. They are incredible angels on earth. And so I hadn't realised, but the hospice in Liverpool had been shut the wards have been shut for 8 months, with the idea of them being virtual wards.
Oh my God, how ridiculous.
It's just, and
how can you virtually nurse people? I mean, it's just not possible.
I mean, Zoom calling in while you're dying. It's just, it might work for some people, but people need to be in safe, amazing places for good deaths. So, the nurses, doctors have been quietened and not allowed to speak about this. But when we've all found out, we had a protest on Saturday. Hundreds of people came. I spoke to ITV about my experiences. And there's a ward there, empty, staff ready to look after people. So I've been writing to Marie Curie and campaigning to get the ward open.
So the staff are there, they're being paid, the place has all been made beautiful, and there's no patients allowed there. I mean, the insanity.
So, we want Marie Curie to speak to us. If it's a case of funding, then we will raise the funds.
Yes, you will.
I mean,
and it's Marie Curie, as far as I could see, because I'm doing it long distance.
Yeah,
aimed for women with cancer. Was it mostly women that were there? Patients?
No, it's anyone who's dying. It's not even just cancer.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
So, there's been young people there, mums, dad. A lot of people have lost someone there. It's a sacred place for a lot of people in Liverpool. Maybe they underestimated the power of Scouse
people power,
especially Liverpool people to take their own destiny. And if the money needs to be raised, we'll raise it. If it's a strategic move to close the hospices, we'll fight that. Just very passionate about it. And Sandra would want me to be there on the front line, as I was, like a fishwife, with a big loudspeaker, speaking on behalf of people. We need the hospice open. So
we do. And is this happening to hospices around the country? Or
so since I've spoken and it was on the news, I've had other people contact me saying this is happening in different parts of the country where hospices have just been closed, nurses are being laid off. So obviously going to challenge that and try to get a national voice. And I've written to the chief executive on Sandra's behalf and asked for a meeting. And and we'll just get a bus to London.
Yes, you will. Well, count me in. I'll be there waiting for you. Not that I'm in London, but I'll come up. I mean, you're amazing. There's so much I can still see for you on your path, on your divine path, bringing in your creativity and your art and your skills and your talent together with all those things we know Sandra was so good at, which is the logical, how to make things happen, which you have always been good at too. You've always made things happen. And where next? I mean, you're staying in Liverpool for the moment. You will stay in Liverpool. Liverpool's heart home. You'll always be there.
Who knows? I mean, I think the thing that I'd like to say as well is that, for people who have lost a significant other, and I know it's different for everyone, different if you've lost a child, different if it's a parent, different if you've lived with that person and they're woven into you every moment. Is that I don't think I will ever be the same. I feel broken on so many levels, but and I won't, I do feel every day that immensity of grief. I mean, I read a book once where a therapist rang every client she'd ever worked with who'd lost a partner and apologized that she'd not known. She'd counsel them, but not known how bloody awful it
The
is.
depth
And
of the pain, yeah.
um, but I'll carry on doing incredible things and carry, the spirit and the energy of Sam with me in that. And, I think there's something really beautiful about broken as well, broken open. And, and I suppose I've never cared really what people think and just done what I've wanted to do. But I think, I just feel like, I've got that, I can do this for Sandra as well, and I said to her when she first got ill, you're broken and you're frightened and you're even more powerful than you've ever been. I think that was true. I mean, I think there was no one more powerful than Sandra in the last few days of her life. Incredible.
Amazing. And from my experience in different ways of spending a little time with very close friends that I loved towards at the end, there is a space of grace that comes between the dying and those that love them that are with them. It's so, it's angelic. There's an angelic energy that I've even found that it's like nothing you can ever explain really, and something that's with you for life.
Sandra had a really conscious death, which I also write about in the book, which is so powerful. I mean, a few days before, she did say, "Is this the longest death ever?" Because she was in the hospice for months. She was just hanging on. She didn't want to go.
She did not want to leave you.
And yeah, and she was experiencing all this, visions of where she was going and what was happening. And she was saying, "I'm not going anywhere until I know what's happening." Always wanted
she put out a whiteboard.
She wanted the information, like what's going to happen when I get there. And she was, and she was saying, she said to me, like, there's a huge queue and I'm not waiting in the queue. I was like, okay. And then, she kept having these revivals where she was telling me what she wanted me to do, my rules for living when she'd gone, which is also in the book, funny. And then she said, just me and her in the room. And she said, I'm fully conscious, she was, I'm going to have to go now, aren't I? And I said, I think you are, Sandra. I think you're going to have to go. And she said, will you walk with me right to the very end as far as you can? And I said, yes.
How was that? Describe how that was, if you would.
Just the most heartbreaking moment and the most powerful, magical moment a lot of people die, don't they, asleep or, they just fade away. Sandra was consciously saying, I've got to find the courage to go. And she actually said, right, I'm going to do this now, held my hand and breathed herself into another dimension.
That's incredible. That's the Buddhist way, isn't it?
And I said,
conscious dying.
I looked at the clock. I mean, she was like very scouse, very down to earth, and a fucking guru of massive proportions.
Yeah.
And she said, then she opened her eyes and she said, I'm not here. I'm in the tree in our garden. And I was like, okay. Then she went back to the breathing. And I looked at the clock and it was 25 past 12. And I thought, she's not going to go till half past because she's so symmetrical. she'll want to go on, she'd say
on the dot.
That's messy to go 25 past. And it was 12:30 on the dot that she went. And I just felt like, people say, sit with the body, wash the body, but she had gone intergalactic. And I just walked out thinking, she's not here in her body, she's gone quickly. And incredible death.
What an extraordinary experience that you wouldn't wish on anybody, but as you say, it's kind of broken really, and then rebuilding, death and rebirth, isn't it?
So powerful. Yeah.
Very powerful. Wow. Well, before we go, I wondered if you'd like, is there one more thing you'd like to read? Maybe either of yours or Sandra's that comes from mind from the book?
I think it'd be beautiful to have, because we've got Sandra's voice reading hers, but there was one that I wrote, it's near the end of the book, about how I'd like to move forward, really, and how I'd like to be in the world. It's called May I Be a Deep Healing Place. May I be a deep healing place, a soft, heart tender place, a seeing fully magic place, a soak in colour place. An old traumas untangle, new stories emerge place. May I be a silent disco for your soul place. And no longer alone, safe from childhood hurt. Rest your troubled mind. A laugh our belly loud place. A fierce, fabulous ally place. May I create this, may I feel this, and may I be this.
So beautiful. Clare Beloved, wow, as always, an inspiration to so many. And I'm sitting here, I don't even know what else to say. I'm just full of love for you, full of love for Sandra, full of love for you, the love you had for each other, and all that others, including me, can learn from you both and how we can be inspired from what you created.
Sandra used to end things, or when she'd always say, "Onwards, beloved." She would call me beloved, onwards, beloved, and I think that's my mantra for going onwards and forwards.
Onwards, beloved. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll put details of how people can buy your beautiful book and find out more about what you're up to. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynne.
God bless you. The unique exercise that I would like to suggest to anybody listening to this podcast is about creating something of beauty yourself, dedicated to someone in your life, perhaps passed away, where you had a deep connection. Maybe a poem, a painting, some kind of spoken word, anything you like that brings up the love, the beauty, the colour, and the lusciousness of your relationship in the same way that Clare had with Sandra. If you enjoyed what you heard and would like to learn more practical methods to help you plant your seeds in your own empowerment journey, then please subscribe to this podcast, rate and review it. Also, please make sure you visit lynnefranks.com, where you can join my mailing list if you haven't already, and together with thousands of like-minded women, become part of my seed network, meeting up through my coaching courses, seed programs, and retreats. So see you next time on Frankly Speaking with Lynne Franks and Friends, when I again will go deep into conversation with somebody whose story I think needs to be told.